Welcome, welcome, welcome. Does the title make you scream? So, if you're scrolling back in your mind thinking about all those times when you bashed your belly or complained about your thighs in front of your kids, first and foremost, be kind to yourself. Please forgive yourself for all those times you body shamed yourself in front of your children. Of course, you'd never intentionally body shame your kid, but please know that when you say negative things about the one body that your kid is most likely to end up looking like or looks up to most, then it's so confusing. The quote of the start of this step came from my daughter when I made a disparaging remark about my chest. It was a momentary lapse of reason, for sure. These breasts of mine fed my twin daughters for years, and Gianna knew there was nothing wrong with them. The fact that they are smallish is inconsequential and genetic. She reminded me that our body types are similar and acceptable. Your babies don't care what the body shape trend of the day is. I think this is one of the reasons why many of my clients loosen the hold that negative body image has on them if they bring infants into their homes. The young ones appreciate the warm, soft, that fleshy bodies that make up their caregivers. They know firsthand that these beings who care for them feel amazing, comforting, and perfect until the culture or their parents themselves say otherwise. Think about how your baby or another unconditionally loving being, like your pet, loves the feel of you and not how you look at your best selfie angle. Very young children are curious about bodies and their different shapes and textures without judgment. They sometimes ask embarrassing questions or call out a very strange, large person, maybe even using the word fat, but doing so often with the reference, interest, and matter of factness. It's only when the culture around children gives them the idea that fatness or other body qualities are negative that children begin to judge their own bodies and others. Somebody comparison is a developmental milestone. At around age of 5 or 6, children begin to be aware of physical differences and compare themselves to children around them. They start to look at each other's bellies and measure them, play doctor and explore each other's parts, and enjoy measuring themselves against their peers in various ways. They're examining their feelings and beliefs about their body, hair, and skin. This is a normal process, a social milestone, and part of separation and individuation from parents. You know, there's awareness both of the differences of others and the uniqueness of the self. There's no need to mess with this stage of development or be mortified if your kid points out you are on another's bouncy belly. They are being curious and appreciating differences. Our own adult judgments often cloud this natural stage of exploration. There's an excellent chance that there is no negative judgment in your children's noticing, even if they use the terms fat, big, or large. When we freak out about these terms and tell them it's not nice to point and use that word, we send the subtle but powerful message that fat and large are negative and shameful. Try embracing the word fat as a descriptor, like blue eyed, muscular, or short. If your child calls another child fat as a way to be mean, you might respond, Alex is fat and there's nothing wrong with that. We know that bodies come in all sizes and shapes, and we accept all people. How boring it would be if we looked all the same. I invite you to explore your own biases about specific terms and aim to maintain a neutral attitude about these terms and body shapes. This is likely very hard to do if your culture and family taught you to fear these kinds of bodies. Still, it's a mighty end to the oppression of persons in larger bodies if you can respond to your child's curiosity with neutrality, not shame or disgust. And you can manage talking about your own body negatively makes your child who loves you question the feeling of positive body connection that he has with you. If you hate your body, maybe then your daughter wonders if she should hate it too, or her own for that matter. I've had several clients describe to me in some detail a conversation with a parent that made them think that bodies and appetites were to be hated or even feared. Again, forgive yourself if you had some moments of this kind of dialogue with your child. Commit to creating a body appreciating vibe in your house from now on. Let's talk a little about what is behind some of this body shaming. Sadly, the medical establishment and the war on obesity have created such a fear of body fat, large body size, and being unhealthy that we have a term now for people who develop a pathological relationship to being healthy and clean in their eating and habits. We call it orthorexia. When someone is not able to go to a gathering with dear friends because they're fearful of the unhealthy foods that will be served, or they think all day about what they're going to cook, when to eat, and when to exercise, all in the name of healthy living, then it can become quite the opposite. That is, stress, constriction, and worry about being in or out of control are typically at the core of orthorexia. Sometimes control strategies like disordered eating results from deeper issues or trauma. Often orthorexic individuals look like they really have their own self-care together, and they definitely curate a good-looking feed on social media. But they are typically working hard underneath to compensate for pain and feeling out of control or unhappy in other areas of their lives. Often this behavior starts innocently as a move toward healthy and vitality, but then gets lost in compulsive step counting, body weighing, and creating the perfect meals. Okay, so let's go back to why we require a term like orthorexia. A newer eating issue designation coined in, I think, 1996 by Dr. Stephen Bratman. Way back in Western history, early modern colonialism introduced moralistic ideas about food. Fear of fat bodies has racial and sociocultural origins. Sabrina String's outstanding book, Fearing the Black Body, discusses how excessive eating was seen as an immoral and more likely to make white middle class Protestant women start to resemble the bodies of African or Irish women. Our modern day weight oppression developed out of these racist and classist ideas. In the 20th century, science and medical communities began labeling fat bodies as unhealthy. However, the fad of thinness was well established before health got into the mix. Doctors became influenced by the health and life insurance companies that used a measurement that was later called the BMI, that is the body mass index, to categorize people as normal weight or ideal weight, overweight, and underweight. The BMI, just pardon my language bullshit, it was developed by a Belgian astronomer as a statistical exercise. It was never intended for clinical or medical use. It was created using white Europeans, not accounting for differences in the average body size of others, not in that group. In 2013, Flegel and colleagues in the Journal of the American Medical Association reviewed several extensive research studies. They determined that overweight has the lowest mortality risk of any group on the BMI chart. The studies show that if you fall into the overweight category, you're less likely to die from all causes. Why then are we calling this overweight? Furthermore, the BMI says nothing about body composition and is ineffective at predicting health outcomes. You can't tell me that my favorite Boston Celtics basketball players are unhealthy. However, the BMI may determine that these dense, muscular, athletic bodies are obese and at risk health wise. On the other side of the spectrum, people of Asian descent who tend to have smaller bone densities are often underdiagnosed when they have health issues because the doctors assume their lower weights protect them. Many researchers have recommended that we eliminate this outdated, inaccurate, and racist tool that we've been using over the years. Many parents also share with me their distress about the emphasis placed on the pediatric growth charts, while the growth patterns depicted help highlight a period of time when a child may be falling off the expected trajectory. Growth and probably could use some attention. We all know that growth does not always happen predictably. I'll be discussing more on this on my part 3, and I hope to talk more and discuss more